Deep within the pitch-black cavern, the roar of water echoed like a lurking beast. Divers clung to a single guide rope, struggling through narrow rock crevices. Visibility was nearly zero, and stalactites threatened to slice through their bodies at any moment. Each breath felt like a gamble with their lives. They knew not what lay ahead, whether it was deathly silence or 13 lives awaiting rescue. Time slipped madly from their grasp. Outside, torrential rain poured down, and floodwaters continued to surge in. A life-or-death struggle had begun. In 2018, Thailand witnessed a cave rescue operation that shocked the world. 12 Thai soccer players and their coach ventured into Tam Luang Nong Non Cave, Thailand's fourth-largest cave system. But once they entered, they never emerged. It wasn't until evening, when torrential rain began to pour down, that their families realized the gravity of the situation. When relatives arrived at the scene, they saw only 13 scattered bicycles. Tam Luang had already been submerged by floodwaters. Their heart-wrenching cries were drowned out by the darkness and the roar of the water. At 1 a.m., the Thai Navy SEALs arrived, preparing to launch an emergency rescue operation. A local resident provided a cave map. Though the interior terrain was complex, it featured several large chambers, offering potential survival space for the children. The SEALs immediately launched their first Perilous reconnaissance mission into the cave. They secured ropes to stalactites, preparing for subsequent emergency rescue efforts. By 5 a.m., the team members who had carried in equipment returned to the starting point, battered and exhausted. The cave proved extremely hazardous. One team member nearly lost his life. After advancing only 800 meters into the 10-kilometer-long cave system, they were forced to retreat. The family's spirits plunged into despair. The rescue operation rapidly escalated into an international effort. Volunteers from around the world poured in. Among them, a hydraulic engineer observed that the volunteers' frantic pumping efforts were yielding almost no results. He sought out local elders to guide him up the mountain, where he discovered multiple water inlets. Floodwaters were pouring relentlessly into the cave. The only solution now was to divert the water at its source. But this meant vast farmlands below would be flooded. Upon learning this, the chief personally explained the situation to the farmers.
มดกันกระจะอี้
ได้
แล้วมันจะช่วยละออนได้ก็เจ้า
จริงๆแล้วผมรับประกันอะไรไม่ได้ครับ
Without hesitation, the farmers agreed to the diversion plan. They resolutely chose to sacrifice their crops to save the children. By the fifth day, over 1,000 emergency responders from around the world had arrived. Among them were Rick and John, two cave diving specialists from the British Cave Rescue Committee, who joined the rescue effort. They ventured deep into the cave, reaching Chamber 3, 800 meters from the entrance. The water level continued to rise. As they pressed further inward, a pump suddenly malfunctioned. As the operator rushed repairs, this being the last spot where they could surface for air, the pair donned fins and submerged. Visibility inside the cave was nearly zero, with sharp stalactites threatening to lacerate them at any moment. Moreover, the terrain was extremely narrow. The slightest misstep could trap them in rock crevices. Gripping the guide rope, they inched forward with immense effort, each step draining their strength. After nearly 4 hours, they reached the trapezoidal junction, 6 kilometers from the entrance. This large chamber offered the first refuge from the floodwaters. They shouted desperately, but no response came. They had no choice but to press onward, searching for the next cave. Suddenly, the mountain collapsed under the flood's force. A violent torrent of water and debris swept them into an instant life-or-death crisis. Drawing on their extensive experience, they managed to avert the crisis. Yet this forced them to retrace their steps. Water levels were rising rapidly. When they reached the dive point, it was nearly submerged. A maintenance worker was trapped. With time running out and unable to move on the rocks, they shared one set of equipment with him. Their plan was to first get him out safely before returning for the other person. But then a new crisis emerged. Severe claustrophobia caused the maintenance worker to lose his mind. He struggled desperately but still managed to break free from Rick's grasp. As he attempted to surface, he knocked off Rick's breathing valve. During the ascent, his head struck a rock, blood flowing freely. Rick swiftly shoved the valve back into his mouth and dragged him back to shore with all his strength, averting disaster. Rick and John reported the situation to the chief. To prevent further casualties, the chief decided to temporarily halt the rescue operation. At this point, the families began contemplating giving up. They only pleaded for the government to bring back the children's bodies intact. The committee held an emergency meeting. They discussed and decided to drain the water from the cave before proceeding with the rescue. However, Rick and John disagreed. They requested to initiate an emergency rescue immediately. Yet the governors still decided to wait until the heavy rain stopped before launching an emergency rescue, as they could not bear the consequences of foreign volunteers taking such risks. On the 8th day, drainage efforts made new progress. The first set of pipes was laid, diverting floodwaters toward the farmland below the mountain. Yet at this moment, an ancient local legend began circulating. 300 years prior, a princess fell in love with a stable hand. Due to their disparate social statuses, they fled to the Sleeping Beauty cave, but this also drew fierce opposition from the king. They eloped to a cave in Chiang, Thailand, to settle. The king dispatched 13 assassins to kill the stable hand. Consumed by grief, the princess removed her hairpin and took her own life. After her death, her blood became rivers, her body transformed into mountains, and the cave they lived in became the mysterious Sleeping Beauty cave. The 13 people trapped in this incident are believed by locals to be the reincarnations of those 13 assassins. Surprisingly, numerous Thai citizens dreamt of the princess, who had been dead for 300 years. In her dreams, she requested that people find a monk named Cuba Chun. If they did, she would grant forgiveness and release the trapped youths. As time slipped away for the 13 boys, the princess in the dreams declared that Cuba Chun was the reincarnation of the stable boy. Yet no one had ever heard of Cuba Chun. A restaurant owner posted on Facebook seeking Cuba Chun. Soon, numerous Thai netizens commented that they had experienced the same dream. The post went viral, and people located Cuba Chun. He had already arrived in Thailand. Even more miraculously, he had been preaching in Myanmar. Just days prior, he himself had the same dream and immediately set out for Thailand. When people found him, he followed the dream's instructions and rushed to the scene. The next day, Cuba Chun arrived and performed a ritual. He then entered the cave alone, emerging slowly 2 hours later. No one knew what transpired inside. Upon exiting, he told everyone the divers were very close to the boys. The children were all safe and sound. They would be seen within a day or two. He then drove away. After he left, Chiang immediately cleared to a sunny sky. On the 10th day, the rescue operation resumed. Rick and John spent 4 hours reaching the trapezoid junction, using new ropes to connect the previous end. They continued exploring forward. Soon, they arrived at Pattaya Beach, the most likely location for the children's survival. Sadly, the children were not found here either. At this point, the two realized the 13 individuals had likely perished. They split up to search both directions, hoping to locate the victims quickly. After over 2 hours, they reached the deeper chamber 9. A foul stench hit them. Suddenly, flashlight beams flickered nearby. Several emaciated figures moved slowly toward them, but when they recognized those figures, the sight before them stunned them beyond belief. All 12 children and their coach were safe and sound. For rescuers with 30 years of experience, this was nothing short of a miracle. It turned out the coach had taught the children to use meditation to alleviate fear and conserve energy, while strictly rationing food and water. John, overcome with emotion, recorded the entire scene with his camera. After 6 grueling hours, they finally returned to the cave entrance. Soon after, the news spread like wildfire across the entire rescue site. That evening, the governor arrived to thank the two for their significant contribution. Yet the challenge of extracting children with zero diving experience from the cave emerged as a new dilemma. The minister proposed deploying elite SEAL commandos with state-of-the-art equipment for the rescue. Rick decisively rejected the idea, knowing the cave's conditions could instantly overwhelm even an adult. And now they were dealing with completely inexperienced children. The SEALs decided to first deliver supplies to the children. Rick and John briefed them on cave safety precautions, emphasizing above all the critical need to conserve oxygen. 3 SEALs spent 7.5 hours safely delivering supplies to the children. Measurements showed oxygen levels inside the cave were below 20%. The children's lives were in constant danger. More critically, as John and Rick pointed out, their remaining oxygen reserves were nearly depleted, barely enough for one diver to return. The urgent rescue operation now involved 15 people. On the 12th day, families were frantic. The chief made a difficult promise to them.
ผมยืนยันได้นะครับว่าเด็กๆต้องออกมาได้อย่างปลอดภัยครับ
Rick racked his brain and conceived a daring plan. John, standing nearby, sensed his intention.
We're crazy's better than nothing. We've got nothing.
We call Harry. Dr. Harris.
On the 14th day, the British Cave Rescue Association dispatched 2 additional divers. They replaced John and Rick in Chamber 9, delivering vital supplies and handwritten letters from the children's families. Soon after, Harry finally arrived. When Rick shared his plan, Harry rejected it outright.
No.
He argued that administering anesthesia to the children was tantamount to sentencing them to death, yet it remained the only viable option for rescue. On the 15th day, while transporting diving equipment to the boys, a team member's oxygen hose became trapped in a rock crevice. The massive leak ultimately cost him his life. Harry faced another agonizing dilemma. If the sedation plan proceeded, the boys would endure over 5 hours of underwater transport. This meant multiple sedation injections during transit. The seal of the oxygen masks and saliva buildup could cause suffocation, while syringes posed infection risks. Rick countered, "If we do nothing, we'll only retrieve 13 bodies." That night, the rescue team held a secret meeting to discuss the anesthesia plan. The director questioned its safety. Harry stated it was theoretically feasible but carried casualties risks. The minister ultimately decided to secretly implement the anesthesia plan. On the 16th day, the rescue operation commenced. Harry produced a set of syringes, having each diver repeatedly practice needle insertion on mineral water bottles. Harry meticulously explained the key points of administering anesthesia. That night, they would begin the rescue in 3 batches. Amidst the public's fervent prayers, divers entered the water one after another. In Chamber 5, located in the middle section, the final details of the operation were confirmed.
When the first boy gets through the long dive, I swim to you and report.
Because if it's not working, Harry needs to know before we bring any more out.
But if it is working,
And we get on with it. The packages. Or just the delivery guys.
right. Okay, lads. Let's do it.
Amidst the children's anticipation, they reached Chamber 9. Upon hearing the rescue news, all the children cheered and jumped for joy. Unexpectedly, an accident occurred before the rescue operation even began. The coach selected 4 lighter children. However, the oxygen mask did not fit Surakai's face properly. Reluctantly, they had to replace Surakai with another boy. First, he put on the diving suit and took a pill. Next, his limbs were secured, and he was transported to Harry. Harry calmed the boy before inserting the needle into his thigh. The boy gradually lost consciousness. After fitting him with an oxygen mask, his limbs were fully restrained. They connected the tow line and submerged, beginning the 2-kilometer underwater transport. With nerves stretched taut, Harry forgot to wait for Rick's signal from the observation post and administered anesthesia to the second child prematurely.
Harry, took him to shore.
Fortunately, Rick soon surfaced with the good news that the first child was safe and sound. However, the boy began showing signs of waking after leaving the observation station. The divers immediately halted their progress to prepare the next dose of anesthesia, but due to extreme exhaustion, his trembling hands caused the syringe to sink to the bottom. He frantically retrieved it and successfully administered the injection before the boy fully regained consciousness. At that moment, the second child, under John's responsibility, also reached the observation point. After topping off the boy's anesthesia, another unexpected incident occurred. John hastily turned him over, only for the boy's breathing to return to normal. John observed that the boy stopped breathing whenever submerged, only to resume breathing upon resurfacing. After several repeated trials, the boy's condition gradually stabilized. John felt as if he'd been on a vertical roller coaster. Meanwhile, after 7.5 hours, the first child was successfully extracted from the cave. With stable vital signs, he was secretly escorted by paramedics onto the emergency rescue helicopter. It was late into the night before the first group of boys were all successfully rescued. Only when the doctor informed Harry that all 4 were safe and sound did he finally relax. This scene lifted Harry's complex mood, boosting his confidence. Yet Rick and John showed no trace of a smile. Their pressure had only intensified. Day 18, floodwaters on the mountain continued to rise. With the old man's help, the diversion project was finally completed. Yet the true rainy season was imminent. That evening, the rescue team finally located properly sized masks. Day 18, torrential rain. The fields had transformed into a vast expanse of water. The difficulty of the emergency rescue had reached unprecedented heights. Rick stated that if the upcoming operation couldn't guarantee his safety, he would withdraw from the mission. However, inside the cave, the water level had risen to roughly 3 times its previous height. This meant they needed to dive deeper. and the risk factor was skyrocketing. All eyes turned to Rick.
Okay. We can make it. We better move fast.
Okay, lads.
This was the final rescue attempt. They had to rescue all the trapped individuals tonight in one decisive push. Upon reaching Chamber 9, repeated attempts revealed the mask still wouldn't fit properly. The boy had to be swapped out again. Underwater conditions deteriorated further. While maneuvering the boy, diver Chris accidentally lost the towline. The powerful current swept him away, leaving him disoriented, exhausting all strength. Chris grasped an electrical cable and followed it to Chamber 4. Fortunately, the boy remained stable, but the anesthetic timing had been completely disrupted. To ensure the boy's safety, Chris had no choice but to wait for rescue. Meanwhile, the mask was finally modified. Surukai eagerly donned his diving suit, swallowed pills, and departed after receiving the anesthetic injection. Rick, the second diver, discovered Chris frozen in Chamber 4. He calmed Chris and instructed him to stay put and protect the boy. Meanwhile, all personnel submerged, completing the evacuation of Chamber 9. Soon after, Chris finally saw Harry approaching. Though emotionally shattered, he remained steadfastly by the boy's side. After examining the boy and finding him unharmed, Harry recognized Chris's fear and guilt.
I mean, Rick said, he said to just do what you said, so...
Well, I reckon you've done the hardest part. Why don't I do the last bit? That way I could say that I was the rescuer too.
I mean, Rick just said to do what's best for the boy, so...
I really think that that's what's best.
Yeah, okay.
Ultimately, everyone returned safely without incident. The emergency rescue operation at Tam Luang Cave concluded triumphantly. All 13 trapped individuals, facing the relentless passage of time, were miraculously saved. In that moment, the joy of saving lives and overcoming nature's challenges prompted the rescue team to raise their arms in triumphant cheers. Over 5,000 volunteers from around the world accomplished what seemed impossible. During the rescue, people forgot differences in skin color, nationality, and culture, jointly creating a monumental feat in rescue history. Everyone was immersed in joy, except for anesthesiologist Harry. After a brief smile, he sat alone in a corner, feeling desolate. Just moments ago, he had received a call. Now, he and his father were separated by life and death, never to meet again. On the 19th day, emergency rescue facilities were dismantled one by one. Each volunteer returned to their own country and family, shedding their heroic aura to become ordinary people again. All the children received timely medical treatment, and their vital signs fully returned to normal. They returned to their normal lives. During the operation, 2 Navy SEALs paid the ultimate price. One was Saman Gunnan, who drowned. The other was a SEAL who accidentally contracted a blood infection during the rescue and later succumbed to it. The day after the operation concluded, Tam Luang Cave was completely submerged by floodwaters. Affected farmers received fair compensation from the government. The coach and 3 boys were later granted Thai citizenship. Emergency responders hailed from 17 countries worldwide, with over 5,000 participants. This was no ordinary rescue, it was a battle against death itself. It revealed the terror of extreme conditions and the warmest light within humanity. Some sacrificed their lives, some wept, some smiled to mask their sorrow. 13 lives saved were not the end of the miracle, but a reminder to the world. In the darkest places, the flame of hope still burns. In the most perilous moments, people still choose to swim against the current. This is the true meaning this rescue leaves us. It is not just Thailand's story, nor merely the story of 13 people. It belongs to the entire world, to all who believe life is worth protecting.